Hello and welcome to Scolinos Field on the campus of Cal Poly Pomona. So glad that you could join us wherever you may be for this broadcast as we are getting set for opening pitch that starts about 10 minutes late here between the Inland Valley Buccaneers and the Rounders South team from Lancaster. The Buccaneers come in 3-12 overall, 2-8 in league play. And they will have a very, very busy week to come. It'll be Jason De La Pena on the mound to start things off here for the Buccaneers. We learned before the game that they're going to treat this game mostly as a bullpen type for the Bucs because, as we just mentioned, lots of games to come. They are playing here today. They will take on the Pirates on Thursday. And on Saturday, they have another doubleheader against the Rounders. On Sunday, they will play top speed. And then on Monday, they will take on the Pirates once again at Cal Poly Pomona. So a very, very busy week set to come for the Buccaneers as De La Pena takes his final warm-up pitches here. Reason we are a little bit late to start is that the Rounders team was a bit late arriving, but they are all here now in their red shirts and white pants, although actually one player has gray pants on the team, so he was not told to wear the whites, or they did not coordinate that beforehand. And their trim is in black numbers. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, of course, have the white cutoff sleeves, white pants, and black undershirts as Johnny Juarez, the catcher, is now calling for the throw down to second base as we will just about start with the opening pitch very, very shortly here from Cal Poly Pomona. Give you the starting lineup for the Rounders. Leading off is Waylon Price at shortstop, batting second to second baseman Brian Ebert. Batting third will be Eric Vegas, the designated hitter. The cleanup hitter is John Ruiz, the first baseman. Daniel Knudsen is the right fielder, batting fifth. Victor Bearer, the left fielder, is the sixth hitter, batting seventh. Third baseman Beanzo Ricardo. The eighth hitter is Travis Holm, and the ninth hitter is Nathan Williams for the Rounders. First pitch in there, called strike one. 0-1 the count here for Jason De La Pena, who is 5'11", 175. Plays for Cal State San Bernardino and majors in criminal justice there. High and in, ball 2-0 the count. Here's the defensive arrangement for the Inland Valley Buccaneers. Working your way left to right across the outfield, it's Chavez, Cortez, and Thibodeau out in the outfield. Late kicking here is the pitch from the southpaw. Called strike one, and it's 2-1. Left to right across the infield will be Riley, Brooks, Casares, Teagle, and behind the plate, Johnny Juarez. Here's the 2-1 offering. Swan and bounce to the left side. Two-hopper over to Bryce Brooks, the shortstop. And he fires across the diamond for the first out here in the top of the first inning. So just underway now from Cal Poly Pomona. Bryce Brooks, of course, a Gold Glove infielder with Rio Hondo at the junior collegiate level, displaying that good glove right there for the first out of the game. Here comes Brian Ebert, the second baseman for the Rounders. There's a pitch, and it misses low for a ball. Jason De La Pena, as we mentioned, from Cal State San Bernardino. There's a few players from Cal State San Bernardino on this team, as this one is swung and fouled down the first base line by Ebert. Before going to Cal State San Bernardino, he went to Citrus College, another common thread between not only this Buccaneer team but also the Pirate team. A lot of players either headed to Citrus College, went to Citrus College, or are currently at Citrus, the Owls. He did very, very well his sophomore year as a pitcher for them. This one's chopped to the right side. Two-hopper over to Teagle. Teagle will flip it to De La Pena, who's covering first base. And that's the second out, so 2 up, 2 down in the form of ground outs here for the Buccaneers in the first inning. We're talking about Citrus College. Well, at Citrus College, in 17 appearances, he had a 0.79 ERA and 22 2/3 innings pitched and 24 strikeouts. So so more than 1 strikeout per inning. Also receiving honorable mention, all conference accolades that year. Fastball called strike 1 on the outside corner, and it's 0-1 to the designated hitter, Eric Vegas. Vegas wearing lucky number 13. Of course, De La Pena will hope that he's not very lucky right here, and he will hope that his number 13 is the one that benefits in this exchange. This pitch misses outside, and it's 1-1 here in the top of the first inning. No score yet. This one swung on, line drive to left center field, and that's going to make its way all the way out to the fence, right where the Cal Poly sign is. And that will be a stand-up double for Eric Vegas. And that was very, very good contact. Line drive right in the gap. That's the first base runner for the Rounders on the stand-up double. And up comes the first baseman, John Ruiz. John Ruiz, another large hitter. This time it's a lefty, though. The last hitter was a righty. So lefty on lefty action here, as the Buccaneers are hoping to get a win here against the Rounders. Here's the pitch. Low and away. Ball 1, 1-0 the count. The Rounders struggled against the Palm Springs Power. Of course, many teams do that, but they lost 15-1 to them. And the Buccaneers actually played much more competitively. Even the game they lost by a lot of runs, that was 10-0, so that was more competitive than 15-1. And of course, in their first game they played, they were leading in the 7th inning 3-2, and couldn't shut the door and ended up losing that game 4-3. So that was a very, very close affair. We mentioned at the top of the broadcast that they will see this team in red, the Rounders, 3 times this week, once here, as this pitch gets by the catcher, and that will be a wild pitch, and advancing 90 feet is Eric Vegas over to third base. And the other 2 times they'll see the Rounders is on Saturday for a doubleheader. Well, this is a big moment right here in the first inning, just to kind of make sure you pitch a scoreless frame here for De La Pena. Particularly when you got the first 2 hitters out, and then all of a sudden the number 3 hitter is on third base after a double and a wild pitch. This one low and away, and Juarez does a good job of making sure it didn't go to the backstop like the previous pitch. Because if that had gone to the backstop, the Rounders would have taken the lead. Here's the pitch. Called strike on the outside corner, and Ruiz thought that it was outside and was pretty much heading down to first base. He thought he had drawn a walk, but he's not so fast. He's going to have to stay in there. De La Pena appears at his catcher's signs. That's Juarez, and he likes what he sees. Shakes his head yes in approval, and this is a little ground ball to the right side. De La Pena gloves it and flips it over to Teagle for the final out of the first inning. So at the end of 1/2 inning, it's the Buccaneers and Rounders knotted up at 0 apiece. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. Welcome back as we head to the bottom of the first inning. Here is the lineup for Kevin Bowler. Leading off in DH is Miles Ryan, batting second at short. Bryce Brooks batting third. At third is Kevin Riley. Cleanup hitter is Luke Asperger, and he will be the extra hitter. The number 5 hitter will be Rudy Casares, then Richie Chavez, Tanner Thibodeau, Johnny Juarez, Jake Teagle, and Diego Cortez will be the final hitter, as the first pitch misses low for ball 1 from Hito Marayu for the Rounders. Miles Ryan, of course, as we mentioned, is the leadoff hitter, the 5'11", 170-pounder, squaring around and then bringing it back, but it's called a strike on the outside, and that's 1-1 here to Ryan. Mentioned in the last half inning that Jason De La Pena played for Citrus College his first 2 years. Miles Ryan, one of those guys who currently plays for Citrus College, fouls this one over towards the third base dugout, and it's 1-2. So a lot of Citrus Owls, as we mentioned, and that's a common theme with this team as well as the Pirates and pretty much the entire Inland Valley Baseball Association. Here's the pitch. Sidearm throw, low in the dirt, and that's ball 2. 2-2 the count. You don't see the pitcher try to appeal too often, but that's what this pitcher did. And the home plate umpire went down to first base, but definitely Miles Ryan held up. 2-2 is low and away, and it's 3-2. Well, from what I'm seeing from this first at bat, if I'm the Buccaneers, I certainly want to take some pitches because this pitcher, Mariu, does not look like he's got the best control. Throwing the rubber from the left side, the right-handed pitcher fires. This one's bounced to the left side for an infield base hit, and Ryan will be at first base safely. It actually got through the infield and into the outfield. So that is a single all the way for Ryan. As Bryce Brooks steps up to the plate. Going straight through the 5-6 hole, the 5.5 hole on that left side of the infield. Bryce Brooks, the shortstop, 6'3", 180, right-handed hitter. Went to Rio Hondo past 2 seasons. Flies the first pitch he sees to shallow right field. That's going to be trouble, but the second baseman coming in late and making the catch in foul territory to retire Bryce Brooks on 1 pitch. So that's the first out here in the bottom of the first inning. Initially, I was watching the right fielder, and I knew that I said it was going to be trouble because it would have been a long way for him to go, and he was nowhere near the fly ball. But the second baseman out there, Ebert, covering a lot of ground to get there in time to retire Bryce Brooks. Here is Kevin Riley. Riley takes low for ball 1. It was a breaking pitch, and it's 1-0 to him. Kevin Riley, a very talented hitter for the Inland Valley Buccaneers, 6'1", 185. Plays for Chaffey College, where he'll be a sophomore next season. His freshman season, as we mentioned, put up really, really good numbers with them. Runners off, swung on, and it's a towering fly ball down the first base line. It's definitely going to be foul. Will it get out of play? Yes, it does work its way out of play. The runner was off on the pitch, and Riley was swinging, but I do not think it was a hit and run because Kevin Bowler has his hands kind of on his hips. On deck is Luke Asperger, wearing number 4 and hitting in the 4 slot today. And in the hole, Rudy Casares. Pick-off throw over to first, really not trying to get Miles Ryan, just trying to keep him on his toes, I guess, because it was pretty much tossed over there very slowly. Here's the pitch. Low and inside for a ball. Kevin Riley at Chaffey College in those 32 games that he played, he hit .320 for them and was a first-team All-Foothill Conference selection. So that is what he did this past season as a freshman. The runner's off with the pitch, and this one is bounced foul to the third base side. And so for the second time, the runner Ryan attempts to go, and for the second time, the hitter Riley fouls it. Of course, this time you can't take it. When you have no strikes on you, if it was a straight steal, oftentimes you'll take it even if you think it's a strike, because you'll allow that runner to get into scoring position and give yourself an RBI opportunity. Here's the pitch. This one misses inside for a ball to Riley. 2-2 the count. Kevin Riley, hometown, is Rancho Cucamonga, and went to Los Osos. They have really, really great and new facilities over there at Los Osos. The runner's off again. This one's swung on, and this is another high fly ball to right field. Miles Ryan actually got his way all the way to second base, and now he's going to have to run to first and slide in there after the outfielder in right field, Knudsen, made the catch and came up firing to first base. Ryan is safe, so he did get back in time. But Ryan's getting a little tired over there. He has his hands on his knees after he's attempted stealing 2 times, and now he was running on that pitch. So 3 times making his way to second base and 3 times having to head back to first. Here's Luke Asperger from Stanford University. Called strike on the outside corner, and it's 0-1 to the 6-foot, 190-pound right-handed hitter. He hit .276 on the club team as a freshman and is hoping to play for them for their NCAA team next season. Runners off again. That is Ryan again, and once again swung on and fouled. And once again, Miles Ryan will have to head back to first base for the 4th time, as he kind of had his head down and will jog back over there. I'm not sure if he knew that one was fouled or not, because he was kind of looking at the second base umpire to tell him that, who told him to go back to the first base. Play kick, and here's the pitch. Called, 3rd strike on the outside corner. Asperger didn't like it, but it looked like a pitch that you have to protect, and that will do it for the 1st inning. At the end of 1 inning of play, it remains scoreless from Cal Poly Pomona. Welcome back to Scalino's Field on the campus of Cal Poly Pomona. Dave Sobera on the play-by-play. So glad you joined us for this non-league game between the Inland Valley Buccaneers and the Lancaster Rounders. Here comes Daniel Knudsen, the right fielder for the Lancaster Rounders. Jason De La Peña remains on the mound, the left-handed hurler. Mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we figured to see a bunch of Buccaneers pitch here today, as the first one's low and away for ball 1. The reason that is because they have a very, very full schedule this upcoming week. So treating today basically as a bullpen day. Called strike, and it's 1-1. Which means everybody got probably about 2 innings. Just kind of make sure that their arm's in shape and loosened up for the upcoming weekend. This one is a little ground ball to the right side, and once again, Jason De La Peña picks it up with his glove and scoops it over towards Teagle for the 1st out. So that is actually the 3rd out that he's been a part of on a ground ball already in 1 1/3 innings pitch. He threw out 2, in fact, the last 2 going back to the previous inning. And then the other one, he covered first base for the 2nd out of the game. Here's Victor Barra, the left fielder. He breaks his bat over towards the left side, and it's going to be a bloop hit that falls in fair territory. So that's going to be a base hit right there. And that was definitely the old duck snort that you talk about. I mean, that was hit very, very weak, and it was just a fly ball broken bat. It looked like it was foul from where I am, but once again, it's really hard to see without there being foul lines out there in third base and left field and right field. Here's Benzo Ricardo. He takes strike 1 on the outside corner, and it's 0-1 to him. Here's the pitch from De La Peña, Swan, and this one's driven down the left field line. And that was hit very, very hard, but foul by about 5 feet. But he really jumped on that one, did Ricardo. Well, it's interesting because it's going to be De La Peña who's really going to show why he's a crafty lefty here, because it looks like the Rounders are timing his fastballs pretty well, as this fastball misses high and away for a ball. But then again, you say that, and also De La Peña's got a bunch of weak grounders, and the runner on first right now broke his bat. So there's a pickoff throw over to first base. So obviously that was not really hard contact made, but the double in the last inning by Vegas was hit very hard out into the gap in left center field. Another pickoff throw by De La Peña. Top of the 2nd inning, no score between the Buccaneers and Rounders. Here's the pitch. Swung on and foul tipped into the glove of Juarez, who shows the home plate umpire, and that is strike 3. So down goes Ricardo for the 2nd out here in the top of the 2nd inning. And up comes number 11, Travis Holm, the center fielder. It's funny, on the scorecard, or the lineup card, I should say, that the Rounders gave us, here's the pitch from De La Peña. Strike 1 on the outside half, and it's 0-1. Instead of writing their actual numbers in the number column, he wrote the number that correlates with each position. So for each player, if this guy is the center fielder, called strike 2, it says number 8 because that's the positional number for center field. So I've been filling in their numbers as we've gone on. We just mentioned this is Snake Eyes, number 11, Travis Holmes. Here's the 0-2 offering. Swan in line, straight back up the middle. De La Peña makes the grab. What a reaction. And that came back to him in less than a second. And he made a great diving catch. And let's see if he gets some congrats from his coach, Kevin Bowler. Kevin Bowler is talking to him and giving him some instruction, maybe seeing if he feels good and maybe seeing if he wants to keep him out there for a little bit longer because Juarez is there too. But that was an amazing reaction by De La Peña to rob the hitter of a base hit. And we'll head to the bottom of the second inning. Still no score from Scalinos Field. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. And welcome back to Scalinos Field on the campus of Cal Poly Pomona as we head to the bottom of the second inning. No score between the Buccaneers and Rounders. Here comes Rudy Casares, and it'll be Richie Chavez and Tanner Thibodeau here in the bottom of the second inning. Well, Jason De La Peña has been pretty good in the first 2 innings. In fact, he's recorded 5 of the 6 outs. Bounced to the right side on the first pitch by Casares. Takes a wicked hop, but the second baseman has it under control. That's Ebert for the first out of the inning. So 4-3 on that put out right there. But Jason De La Peña struck out 1, but then the other 4 outs he made were 3 were on ground balls. 2 he flipped over to the first base, and the other one he covered. And then the line drive screamer right back at him that he made a diving catch to his right. Here's the first pitch to Richie Chavez, who takes low for ball 1. 1-0 the count to Richie. Richie is the left fielder. 5'10", 165. Plays for Citrus College, where he'll be a sophomore next season. Swings at this one and lines it to the right side, and a diving catch made, robbing Chavez of a hit. Wow, nice play made by Ebert over at second base on a line drive that was absolutely scalded. And it looked like it was going to be in the hole to the right side. And he laid out full extension, diving to his left, and made the catch. Here comes Tanner Thibodeau, the right fielder. Late kick, and here's the pitch. Swings at this one, bounces it to the left side. It'll take a kind of a weird hop over to the shortstop, who fires to first base in time. It looked like Thibodeau beat it out, but the umpire emphatically called him out on the ground ball. And another good reaction by Bryce, as after that took like a kind of a wicked hop like the first one did earlier in the inning. And so that'll do it for the second inning, and it remains a scoreless tie here at Cal Poly Pomona between the Rounders and Buccaneers. And welcome back as we head to the top of the third inning. Dave Sobera on the play-by-play. So glad you joined us here for this matchup with the Rounders and Buccaneers. The number 9 hitter in the lineup, Nathan Williams, steps up to the plate. And then it'll be the top of the order, Waylon Price and Brian Ebert. We do have a new pitcher in here after Jason De La Peña's night is over after 2 innings. Here's the pitch for Sanchez. The new pitcher is in there. Fastball, strike 1, 0-1 the count. Chris Sanchez is 6'3", 185, plays for Diamond Bar High School. That's how he got connected with this team. Of course, Kevin Boulder coaches at Diamond Bar. Swings at this one and fouls it out of play down the first base line. Actually hit off the top of the clubhouse for Cal Poly Pomona. And it's 0-2 here, as Coach Smith says, be smart here, kid. And this one swung on and driven straight back up the middle. Charging in is the second baseman Casares, and he makes the sidearm throw over to first base for the first out. So on the 0-2, it actually was hit very softly, but past Chris Sanchez. Casares displaying why he is such a talented fielder, specifically a middle infielder. Charging and then picking up and sidearming it in one fell swoop. Here comes the leadoff hitter, Waylon Price. He grounded out to the shortstop in his first at-bat, so he's 0 for 1. Sanchez delivers. Nice breaking pitch in there for called strike 1, 0-1 the count. At Diamond Bar High School, he was very, very good, was Chris Sanchez. He had a 1.91 ERA, 7-4 record, and threw 73 in the third innings. Called strike on the outside corner, and it's 0-2. Also tossed 4 complete games for Diamond Bar. Of course, in high school, complete game would be 7 innings and not 9, but still impressive nonetheless. Late kick, and here's the pitch from Sanchez. Called strike 3 on the outside corner. And he's looking very, very good so far as number 18. In fact, he's thrown 6 pitches, and all 6 of them were strikes. You like to hear that. Here's the number 2 hitter in the lineup, Brian Ebert, who grounded out to the first baseman, Jake Teagle. Here's the pitch. Fastball, called strike 1, 0-1. So 7 pitches, 7 strikes now here for Sanchez. Working out of the windup. Here is the 0-1. Fastball misses low, and it's 1-1. Sanchez has a unique way of starting his windup. Kind of has the glove and the ball on his right hip. And that's where he keeps it the whole time before he throws it. Broken bat again. And this is a little flare out in front of Bryce Brooks, who fires sidearm. And nice dig over there by Teagle for the final out of the inning. So second broken bat here for the Rounders in just 3 innings. And as we said, that'll do it for the top half of the third. It remains scoreless after 2.5 innings between the Buccaneers and Rounders. We'll head to the bottom of the third inning. Rounders and Buccaneers doing battle. No score yet. Here comes Johnny Juarez, the catcher, for his first at-bat. And the pitch misses low and away for ball 1. 1-0 the count. The bottom of the lineup is due up here for the Rounders. It's Juarez, then Teagle, and Cortez, the center fielder, batting last. This one's called a strike right at the knees, and it's 1-1 to Johnny Juarez, 5'11", 190. Plays for Mount San Antonio College right down the street. Bounces this one foul behind home plate, and it's 1-2. Hometown is Glendora, and went to Glendora High School. Also not too far here from Cal Poly Pomona. Swung on and missed, strike 3, so down goes Juarez, and that is the first out here in the third inning, and up comes Jake Teagle. Jake Teagle, 6'1", 180, right-handed batter. Hasn't played in that many games this summer for the Buccaneers, but did play very well for Chaffey College this past season. Sidearm throw, and he's laying a bunt down the third base line. Does he put one over on the defense? Yes, he does. He is safe. That is an infield base hit on a bunt by Jake Teagle. So Jake Teagle trying to start a little rally here as he lays one down the third base line and probably shows off that speed, but that's probably some of the reason why he hit 300 at Chaffey College this past year, because he's a smart, high IQ hitter, and when he sees that the third baseman might not be ready for it, he lays one down. Called strike, 0-1 the count to Diego Cortez. Diego Cortez, 5'10", 180, left-handed hitter from the University of Laverne. The only Leopard on this team, but 2 on the Pirates team, Nolan Henley and Brett Early. Checks his swing, and it's actually fouled for Diego Cortez here. Cortez's major is accounting. Hometown Upland, and went to Upland High School. Late kick, and here's the pitch. Called third strike on the inside corner. Down goes Cortez, as it was a slider of the backdoor variety, I guess you would say, to Cortez. And he kind of ducked his shoulder out of the way. The home plate umpire thought it was a strike, and that's what he called it. So that's the second out here in the bottom of the third inning. Still no score, Buccaneers and Rounders. Here comes Miles Ryan, the leadoff hitter. He is 1 for 1. Singled to the left side, and now tries to lay another one down. So Bucks employing small ball tactics, as this one was foul. So it's 0-1 to Ryan. Ryan hit it through the left side hole in his first at-bat in between the third baseman and shortstop. Other than that, the only other hit was the bunt single by Jake Teagle here in the bottom of the third inning. Ryu comes set, and the runner is off way early, and Teagle is now dead to rights as he is caught off base, and the tag is applied by the first baseman Ruiz after it initially went down the second, and then they threw down the first, and he makes the backhanded tag, actually. And so a lot of the people in the dugout didn't think he was tagged, and some of the people in the stands didn't think he was tagged either. But like I said, he was dead to rights, and most times the umpire will just call you out in that situation when you're caught in a rundown. So that'll do it for the third inning, and at the end of 3, it remains scoreless at Cal Poly Pomona between the Buccaneers and Rounders. We'll head back to the top of the 4th inning, and here comes Eric Vegas, the number 3 hitter in the lineup, who doubled back in the first inning and then got as far as third base on a wild pitch, if you recall. And then Jason De La Peña getting out of the jam. Chris Sanchez has come on since. Here is his first pitch, swung on and missed, and it's 0-1. So Chris Sanchez has been very, very good since coming in the third inning. In fact, pretty much every pitch he's thrown, for the most part, it's been a strike. I believe he got a 1-2 ball count to the last hitter he faced in that last inning. But he has been very, very solid. Fastball outside, ball 1. 1-1 the count. As we mentioned, Chris Sanchez is from Diamond Bar High School. A lot of guys from nearby. Sanchez is another one like that, as this one misses low for ball 2, and it's 2-1. So this is the heart of the lineup here. This will be a good test to see exactly how good of a pitcher Chris Sanchez is. He's going to face the number 3, 4, and 5 hitter, and they are all large in stature. Wow, what an off-speed pitch there. Swung on and missed, and there is no chance for Vegas to hit that one. I mean, that was so slow, and he was way out in front of it. 2-2 the count. Working out of the windup. Here's the pitch from Sanchez. Swung on and bounced to the right side over to Casares, and he will have it. And fired to Teagle for the first out here. 4-3 on that one. As Chris Sanchez continues to cruise, 4 up and 4 down since he entered in the third inning. In fact, that's 6 consecutive retired altogether for the Buccaneers between De La Peña and Sanchez. It'll be interesting to see, considering how well Sanchez is pitching, to see if Coach Buller maybe throws him at least one more inning after this one. Swung on and foul tipped into the glove of Juarez, and it's 0-1. I mean, he's just changing the pitches up so beautifully right now. His fastball is kind of blowing it by the hitter, and the off-speed pitch is like unhittable. Another fastball on the black in the outside corner called strike 2, and it's 0-2. And the other thing is he's being so efficient, and when you get ahead of a hitter, that allows you to come with the off-speed and try to catch him fishing. This one swung, and this is a high fly ball lifted to deep right field. Tanner Thibodeau is retreating, and he makes the grab about maybe 5 feet away from the fence out there in right field. It was a towering fly ball hit by the cleanup hitter John Ruiz, who now falls to 0 for 2 on the day. But 5 up and 5 down here for Chris Sanchez. Here comes the left-handed hitter Daniel Knudsen. He is 0 for 1 with a ground out to the pitcher. And it was De La Peña who was the pitcher for his first at-bat. Working out of the windup. Here's the pitch from Sanchez. Nice breaking ball in there, called strike 1. And like we said, you get up on a hitter, you can come with a lot of different things after that. Now try to maybe pipe him after you come with a breaking pitch, and then it's anybody's game what you do after that. And that's exactly what he does here. He throws the fastball, and it's swung on and missed, and it's 0-2. Chris Sanchez showing some dominating stuff so far in 1 2/3 innings pitched for the Buccaneers. Here's the 0-2 offering. Fastball outside. Ball 1, 1-2 the count. So often on an 0-2 pitch, really what you want to do is throw the pitch about 12 to 18 inches off the plate, because you want to catch the hitter, you know, fishing, so to speak, or catch him swinging at one out of the zone. But this one comes in the zone, called strike 3 on the inside corner. And wow, these 2 innings have been very, very quick for Chris Sanchez, who now has 2 strikeouts and has retired all 6 hitters he's faced. And we'll head to the bottom of the 4th inning. The score remains 0-0, Bucks and Rounders. We'll head to the bottom of the 4th inning in a scoreless tie between the Buccaneers and Rounders. It'll be the leadoff hitter, Miles Ryan, leading things off here in the 4th inning. If you remember, he was up at bat back in the 3rd inning when Jake Teagle was caught stealing. He left well before the pitcher even came home to the plate. And the pitcher, Ryu, just kind of stepped off the mound, threw it down to second, and the second baseman threw it over to the first baseman, Ruiz, who applied the tag on a backhanded swipe at him. Swung on and driven to the left side. Nice sliding grab deep in the hole. Throw made but not in time as Miles Ryan beats it out, and he is now 2 for 2 on the day with a couple hits to the left side. But once again, Price going deep in the hole, making a sliding grab from his knee, bouncing up quickly and firing across the diamond just a few feet down that first base line. These infielders have looked pretty good for the Rounders, very fundamentally sound. Here comes Bryce Brooks, 0 for 1, flew out to second base on the first pitch he saw. And now this time he's going to try to bunt and fouls it straight back at the screen, and it's 0-1. So with the runner on first base and no outs, and the number 2 hitter at the plate, seems like it is an obvious sacrifice situation for Kevin Bowler and the Bucks. You normally put the number 2 hitter in that spot because he can control the bat as well as anybody on the team and make a lot of contact with the baseball. And is usually used for situational hitting like this, where you want to just move a runner into scoring position and then get to the heart of your lineup and see if somebody like Kevin Riley or Luke Asperger can drive in the run. Here's the pitch. And this one is fouled, and it was also a bunt attempt. So it'll now be 0-2. Well, Bryce Brooks is the nephew of former Major League Baseball player Mark Kotsay. Said he talks to him a lot, and specifically at the end of his sophomore season, the thing they talk most about is hitting, because he can handle himself with the glove. In fact, he was a Gold Glover at Rio Hondo, and he's squaring around again on 0-2, and he fouls it. And so that'll be a strikeout as he slams his bat in disgust in the infield grass. So that'll be the first out there. Well, you hate to see that because, you know, you're taking the bat out of his hand. But, you know, Kevin Bowler's decision was that we need this runner to be at second base because we need to manufacture a run. And so he had 3 chances to do it, and he couldn't get it down. And so now they have 1 out because of that, and the runner is still on first base. That, of course, is Miles Ryan, who singled through the left side. And it was a sliding catch made by Bryce, but he couldn't get it to first base on time. Here is Kevin Riley. The runner's off. Ryan sliding foot first and is safe with a stolen bag. So Ryan takes matters into his own hand, I guess, and steals second and puts himself in scoring position. If you remember back in the first inning when he got on base, he ran to second about 4 times. 3 of them were fouled, and then 1 was a fly ball to right field. So every single time he ran to second, he had to sprint back to first base, and he was looking kind of sluggish and tired with his hands on his knees after the 4th time he had to do that. But this time he does get the stolen bag, and the Bucks might be in business with 1 out in the bottom of the 4th inning. Still a scoreless game. Riley swings at this one, and it's a line drive to the right side. The second baseman goes down to his knee and blocks it with his chest and makes a good play over to first to get the second out of the inning. And that's what you got to do on a play like that. If it's hit that hard and you won't be able to field it cleanly, you just have to make sure it doesn't get in the outfield. And if you can block it and pick it up and fire over to first and get the out in time, that's all you need to do. Ryan did advance 90 feet over to third base as the first pitch is fouled behind home plate by Luke Asperger, so it'll be 0-1 to him. Asperger struck out looking on a pitch on the outside in his first at-bat that he kind of looked like he was disgusted from the call. kind of looked up to the heavens and basically asking why was that called a strike. Swings and misses at this one. It's now 0-2 to Luke Asperger. Asperger's hometown is Pasadena and went to Polytechnic High School. Ryu comes set, fires, low and away, ball 1-2 the count. At Polytechnic High School, he was a first-team All-CIF selection. He was All-League selection twice and All-San Gabriel Valley selection as well. And his team won the CIF championship. Swung on and foul straight back at the screen. So we'll do it again. Another 1-2 pitch to come as the on-deck hitter, Rudy Casares, will pick up the baseball. That season, when he won the CIF championship, he hit .443 and led the CIF Southern section with 9 home runs. Swung on and fouled out of play behind home plate. So another 1-2 pitch to come. That's what you got to do if you're Luke Asperger here. Protect the plate and hope that the pitcher will eventually make a mistake with the runner on third base. Pitcher Marayu shakes off the catcher's sign twice here. Let's see what he goes with on the 1-2 offering. Sidearm throw fouled again. So Asperger continuing to stick in there as an epic at-bat is ensuing between Asperger and Marayu here. Still only 1-2, so Marayu could still throw a waste pitch if he feels inclined to do that. Here's the pitch, and this one is a waste pitch. It's outside for ball 2, and it's 2-2. Well, this is a really good at-bat right here by Luke Asperger. Let's see what he can do with it. Here's the pitch. Swung, and it's a little ground ball over to the left side at the shortstop, Price. Price will fire to first base, and that will do it for the 4th inning. At the end of 4 innings, it remains 0-0 between the Buccaneers and the Rounders. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. We'll head to the top of the 5th inning as number 5 steps up to the plate. Victor Bearer, the left fielder, who is 1-for-1 for the Lancaster Rounders. Swings at the first pitch he sees and lifts it into right field, where the right fielder out there, Thibodeau, is camping underneath it and making the catch for the first out. So 1 pitch and 1 down here for the new pitcher, Nathaniel Acosta. So even though Chris Sanchez pitched so well in those 2 innings, and I really didn't throw that many pitches, retiring all 6 hitters he faced, Kevin Bowler sticking with the plan and getting everybody a couple innings of work. And this one is lined down the left field line, and that'll drop in fair territory. Rounding first and staying at first is Benzo Ricardo. Initially off the bat, that looked like a surefire double, and a stand-up double even, because he was hit straight down the left field line. But the left fielder out there, Richie Chavez, very, very speedy, got to it very, very quickly, and was able to hold the runner at first, and that's a really good play by him. So only a single on that line drive down the left field line as the center fielder, Travis Holm, comes to the plate. And this is called strike 1, 0-1 the count to him. If you recall, on his first at-bat, it was against Jason De La Pena, and he lined it right back at De La Pena, and De La Pena made the diving catch to his right. Swung on and lined down the left field line, foul. So it's 0-2. To Nathaniel Acosta, 6'2", 225-pound right-handed pitcher from the University of Redlands, where he will be a junior. His major is communicative disorders and resides in Chino Hills. Bounced over towards the third baseman, Kevin Riley. Riley bobbled it at first, and the play off second was off, and now he overthrows the first baseman way over Jake Teagle's head. So both runners will advance into scoring position at second and third base on the error by the third baseman, Riley. Well, initially Riley made the right decision in the sense that he bobbled it at first because it was struck very hard, and he checked the runner at second, and he realized he wasn't going to be able to make the force out there in time. So he decided to try to go across the diamond over to Teagle, but in doing so, after it hit the ground, he realized that he didn't have as much time as he really needed, And so that's why he kind of hurried and rushed his throw, and that's what caused it to be so high over Teagle's head. Here comes the infield in. Everybody is on the infield grass, both the corner infielders and the middle infielders alike, as the number 9 hitter, Nathan Williams, swings at the first pitch he sees and fouls it back at the screen. So a big moment here for the Buccaneers and Nathaniel Acosta. In fact, the Buccaneers, going back to Jason De La Peña's last out, had a streak of 9 consecutive hitters retired before Ricardo hit the line drive down the left field line, and then Travis Holm reaches on the error. You have 9 consecutive hitters retired with 3 different pitchers, fastball high for a ball. We mentioned De La Peña got the first out in those 9, and then it was Sanchez for 6 of them. And a couple for Acosta. Here's the pitch from Acosta, misses inside for a ball. Two and 1 the count. Runners on second and third base. The runner on third is Ricardo, who had the line drive down the line, and Holm reached on an error, a 2-bag error. Called strike on the inside, and it's 2 and 2 for Acosta. Nathaniel Acosta, really only pitching most of the season here for the Inland Valley Buccaneers. It was hitting where he did very well for University of Redlands in the SCIAC Conference this past season. In 39 games as a hitter, he hit .295 and had a .401 on-base percentage. Also had 27 RBIs and 8 home runs. But I guess he's decided that he wants to work on pitching, as this one is swung on and missed. And that is strike 3, so that'll be the second out of the inning here for Acosta. So 2 away here in the top of the 5th inning. Still no score between the Rounders and Buccaneers. Here comes the leadoff hitter, Waylon Price. Price is 0 for 2. Grounded out to the shortstop in the 1st inning and struck out in the 3rd inning. Of course, the infielders will go back to their normal positions now that there are 2 outs. So you want to just get the force out at first base to Jake Teagle. Costa working out of the stretch on the left side of the rubber, fires towering fly ball to straightaway center field, and the center fielder Cortez will make the easy grab for the final out of the inning. So we are halfway through this baseball game, and it still remains a scoreless tie between the Bucs and Rounders. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th inning, and a scoreless tie between the Buccaneers and Rounders. Dave Sobera on the play-by-play. So glad you joined us for this non-conference game, as the first pitch misses low for ball 1 to Rudy Casares, the second baseman, who grounded out to his counterpart, Ebert, over there in his first at-bat. Breaking pitch misses low. 2-0. Richie Chavez is on deck. Tanner Thibodeau in the hole. This one also misses low and away. So Rudy Casares ahead of the count here for the Buccaneers. Of course, the Bucs are 3 and 12 overall, hoping to get win number 4, as this pitch was called a strike basically just because it was a 3-0 count. Anytime there's a 3-0 count, you see a lot of umpires at the high school and collegiate level just call anything near the zone a strike. Here's the 3-1 offering. This is bounced up the middle over towards the shortstop, who makes the catch right behind second base and makes the throw in time to retire Casares for the first out in the 5th inning. Casares removed his helmet immediately and kind of shook his head, as he really thought that he had a walk on 4 pitches. And then he bounces it towards the middle, but it wasn't struck hard enough to get through. Here's Richie Chavez, 0 for 1, lined out to the second baseman. He hit very well for Citrus College his sophomore year, batting .310. Swings at this one and fouls it back at the screen. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see who gets the momentum first in this game, as nobody scored yet. It's been very hard to even get in the scoring position for the most part. And Chavez now fouls another ball out of play. So now he's going to have to protect the plate with a 2-strike pitch here against Mariah, who remains on the bump for the Rounders. Shakes the catcher's sign off, and now the catcher will set up on the outside corner. Swan, and this one is fisted over towards the third base side, foul by Chavez. So we talked about it. It's something that you got to do with a 2-strike count is protect the plate, and the Buccaneers have done a very, very good job of that for the most part here today. Something that they've really been kind of stretching this season. Swung on, line drive to the right side and into the outfield for a base hit by Chavez. So Chavez now on base, but what I was beginning to talk about is something that they've been stressing lately is choking up on the bat a little bit and making sure that you kind of choke and poke if you're down on a 2-strike count and not get struck out, because it's something that really plagued the Buccaneers a lot earlier in the season. That was not a choke and poke. That was a line drive screamer to right field by Richie Chavez. And here is Tanner Thibodeau. He is 0 for 1 with a ground out to the shortstop. Here's the pitch, Swan, and now this is a towering fly ball, another one to the right field. And actually, it looked like the right fielder out there, Knudsen, initially said he couldn't see it, but he made the catch. And it was a pretty routine fly ball out there for him, and that's the second out of the inning. So 2 down now in the bottom of the 5th, as it's still scoreless between the Buccaneers and the Rounders. Here's Johnny Juarez. He is 0 for 1 and struck out back in the 3rd inning. First pitch to Juarez, well out of the zone, outside, and it's 1-0 to Johnny. Johnny doing a very good job behind the dish today. Look at the Inland Valley baseball teams, both the Pirates and Buccaneers, and a lot of talented catchers. Here's the pitch. Swan is driven to center field. It's a line drive, but straight at the center fielder home, who makes the catch for the final out of the inning. And sometimes those are the hardest ones, because when it's hit directly at you, you're not sure whether or not to come in or go out. And he kind of made one step back and then came one step in, and it was hit right at him. And he makes the catch, and that will do it for the 5th inning. So at the end of 5, it remains a 0-0 ball game between the Rounders and Buccaneers. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. To the top of 6 we go in a game that's been pretty rapid-paced for the most part, and that's what happens when you have a pitcher's duel, although the Buccaneers have used 3 pitchers for that duel, while the Rounders have stuck with the same one. First pitch is lifted into right field. A diving attempt made out there in right field by Thibodeau. Actually, that's Anthony Rubito now who came in for Thibodeau, and he can't make the play, so that'll be a stand-up double there for Brian Ebert, who was 0 for 2 before this at bat. So Rubito in for Thibodeau. We have Michael Smith in for Rudy Casares at second base. Gerardo Ramirez is in at third base for Riley. Ryan is now the catcher, who actually started at DH, so he's in for Juarez. And I would be pretty sure that that's Anthony Seminar. Yeah, that is Seminaris at shortstop, who has now replaced Bryce Brooks. Also, we've got Ambusi Lachuayo in center field, replacing Cortez. Fastball outside corner called strike 1, and it's 0-1 to Eric Vegas, the large number 3 hitter in this lineup, who is 1 for 2. Hit the double to the left center gap back in the 1st inning. Rounders with a runner on scoring position and no outs in the top of the 6th inning. Really hoping to manufacture that run here. Fastball swung on. It's a fly ball into right field over towards Anthony Rubito. Rubito is going to make the throw over to third, and that was a very, very good throw at third. Riley had to make a leaping catch to make it, but that definitely kept the runner put at second base. with Rubito showing off the cannon. And actually, that was Riley. I don't know why I said that was Ramirez, but Riley actually still is in at third base. That is not Ramirez. Here comes the left-handed hitting cleanup hitter, John Ruiz, who is 0 for 2 with a ground out and a fly ball out. Swings and misses at the first one, and it's 0-1. It took a big old cut. Was hoping to maybe take that one out the right field wall. Oh, it's not easy to hit a home run out here, especially with a wooden bat. This place is sort of affectionately referred to as a hitter's graveyard, but Nolan Henley actually hit a home run out here this year. That was the first one I had seen hit here with the wood bats in 2 years. Appeal made it down to second base, and they say he held up, so that'll be a ball. And it's 1-1 here. Well, you don't see this often, but there was a streak of 9 consecutive retired by Inland Valley Buccaneer pitchers in this game. And the 9 consecutive were retired by 3 different pitchers. It was Jason De La Peña who had the first 2, swung on and missed. And that is the second strike here. And then Sanchez, 6 in a row. And Acosta got the first one he faced out. I mentioned how fast the game was going at the beginning of the 6th inning. We started 10 minutes late, so at an hour and 10 minutes in, here's the pitch from Acosta, swung and foul behind home plate and out of play. At an hour and 10 minutes in, you're already in the 6th inning. Kind of drawing, I guess, some resemblance to the first game featuring the Power and Pirates that we had on our air yesterday, where they were in the 7th inning about at the 1 hour and 20-minute mark. Now the final couple innings slowed down a little bit. Swung on another fly ball foul behind home plate and out of play. It wasn't necessarily because there were a lot of runs scored in those final innings, although the Power ended up putting up 2 in the 9th, and the Pirates ended up getting 1 in the 7th and 1 in the 8th. But it was just because the game was so intense that everything meant more. The pitchers were taking more time. Here's the pitch from Acosta. Swan is driven through the left side and in the left field. Rounding third base and coming home to score the first run of the game for the Rounders is Brian Ebert on the RBI double by John Ruiz. So the Rounders draw first blood here in the top of the 6th inning, taking a 1-0 lead over the Bucs. And up comes Daniel Knudsen. He is 0 for 2, grounded out to the pitcher and struck out back in the 4th inning. This is just the first of many games over the next week for the Inland Valley Buccaneers. This one swung on. It's a little roller to the right side. Teagle will flip it to Acosta at the bag for the second out. And Teagle, I guess, thought that was the third out because he was running off the field, but it's only the second out here. You're seeing the pitchers involved in a lot of ground ball outs in this game, specifically Jason De La Peña, who's 6 of the guys. He faced more than 6 hitters, but out of the 6 outs, 5 of them he was a part of. 1 was a strikeout, 1 was a line drive, and then he had 3 ground ball outs. Fastball in at the knees, called strike 1, 0-1 the count. Sanchez didn't make any plays in the field like Acosta did, but what Sanchez did was retired all 6 he faced and struck out 2. Here's the pitch. Fastball low, and it's 1-1. So the Buccaneers now falling behind 1-0 in the top of the 6th inning to the Lancaster Rounders. Here's the pitch. Low for ball 2, and it's 2-1. This is a big moment for Acosta to just keep this to a 1-0 game with a runner on third base. Don't want to potentially allow this to be a 2-0 game. Here's the pitch. Fastball bounced to the shortstop, charging is Seminaris, and he will fire to Teagle for the final out. An easy throw over to first base as the hitter didn't really run hard down the first base line. So that'll do it for the 6th inning. And at the end of the top of the 6th inning, and 5.5 innings of play in total, it is now 1-0. Lancaster has taken the lead at Cal Poly Pomona. Welcome back to the bottom of the 6th we go. Jake Teagle up at the plate, the number 9 hitter in the lineup, is 1 for 1, had the bunt single back in the 3rd inning and then was caught stealing. Here's the pitch, swings at this one and lines it over to the shortstop. It took a bad hop and he will not be able to handle it, so that'll be an E6 as Teagle gets on base for the 2nd time today. And up comes Hlachwayo, and Busi Hlachwayo actually replaced Diego Cortez in the last inning as a defensive replacement, one of several for Kevin Bowler, as we see that he normally makes those moves in the 5th or 6th inning. Today he decides to make them in the 6th inning. Hlachwayo squaring around in a sacrifice situation, and he gets it down on the ground and does a good job of that. He's sprinting down the first base line but will not be able to get there in time. But he did his job on the sacrifice. Teagle going up to second base, and actually the 3rd baseman charged and he wasn't back to the base very quickly. So Teagle took a long banana cut around second base before deciding that he wouldn't be able to get there in time before the 3rd baseman, Ricardo, over there. Here's Miles Ryan. Ryan is 2 for 2, so with the runner in scoring position, this is the man that you definitely want to see up there in this game at least. Both of his hits going to the left side. One was an infield hit to the left side, and one was hit to left field. Speaking of the left side, the left fielder, I think, is struggling with the sun because he's kind of standing on an angle, like a 45-degree angle, as opposed to standing straight in. That is very unusual. Breaking pitch misses inside for ball 1, 1-0 the count. I mean, he's facing towards the bullpen, not even towards the 3rd base dugout really over there. So Ryan, as the pitcher steps off the mound, Ryan is digging in here and hoping to knot this one up at 1 apiece after the Rounders broke a scoreless tie in the top half of the 6th on an RBI hit. This one is bounced to the right side, backhanded grab made by the first baseman who steps on the bag for the 3 unassisted putout. The runner does advance over to 3rd base, and up comes Bryce Brooks. Oh no, Bryce Brooks was actually replaced in the 6th inning, so this is Anthony Seminaris here. Seminaris, 5'10", 175. Will play for Fullerton College as a redshirt freshman next season. Here is the pitch. And it's a breaking pitch that misses inside for ball 1. 1-0 count for Marayu, who remains on the mound here for the Lancaster Rounders. 1-0, swung and lifted into shallow left field. Calling for it is the shortstop and making the grab about 5 feet on the outfield grass. And that'll do it for the 6th inning. And at the end of 6, it remains 1-0 Lancaster on top. To the top of 7 we go. 1-0 the score. Lancaster on top of Inland Valley. We do have a new pitcher. The 4th pitcher of the day for the Inland Valley Buccaneers is Micah Byer. Micah Byer is 5'11", 145. Fastball low and away for a ball. Goes to Cal Baptist and went to Don Lugo High School. Number of players on the Pirates went to Don Lugo High School. Of course, Micah Byer was actually a member of the Pirates in 2013. High and in. The hitter will have to duck his head a little bit. That is Ricardo, the 3rd baseman. Ricardo is 1 for 2, struck out in the 2nd and singled in the 5th. Well, Kevin Bowler, holding true to his word, swung on and fouled out of play behind the backstop. holding true to his word in the sense that he was going to treat today as a bullpen day. So everybody getting 2 innings so far. We'll see if Beyer ends up pitching the 7th and 8th, and then he goes to somebody else in the 9th. Breaking pitch that misses high and inside for a ball. Well, if you remember, when Micah Beyer started on Saturday against the Pirates, he went 4 2/3, but he pitched very, very well and really stymied the hitters from that Pirates lineup. And that is a great lineup, as we have another pitch sawn and fouled out of play, so it'll be a 2-strike count here for Beyer. And Beyer really, he just couldn't get that final out in the last inning. And then in came the relief pitcher, I believe it was Jacob Cage, and he gave up a 2-run hit, and that is a walk on a fastball that misses low. So all of a sudden, Beyer ended up giving up 3 runs in that game. But it wasn't indicative of how well he really played and how well and how, good of a job he did to keep the Pirates off the board. And the only other run scored in that game before that was on a strikeout that got away from the catcher Johnny Juarez. And the reason it got away was because it actually hit the ankle of Jacob Bernardi, the player who struck out. This one misses for a ball, and it's 1-0. Teagle will run out to the mound and maybe try to settle down Beyer a little bit. Ricardo, the leadoff hitter, is on first base after drawing the full count walk. They're at the number 8 hitter in the lineup, Travis Holm here. He is 0 for 2, but now he is 1 for 3 on a line drive to the opposite field. And so all of a sudden, the Rounders are in business here in the top of the 7th inning. The first 2 hitters reach base, and Coach Smith, the pitching coach for the Bucs, is going to call time and come out for a meeting with Micah Beyer and Miles Ryan at the pitcher's mound. Well, it's interesting because we just mentioned how well he pitched on Saturday, and now he offers a walk to the first batter and a hit to the second batter. And it's something that I think that they were talking about with Micah Beyer is the consistency. Because we've seen outings like he had against the Pirates where he goes about 5 innings and gives up pretty much nothing, maybe 1 run. Then they've also seen outings where nothing seems to go right for number 20. Basically, the thing to do is just kind of figure out why that is if you're Micah. Here's the number 9 here in the lineup, Nathan Williams, 0 for 2. Ground out and a strikeout. Ryan setting up on the outside, and this is going to be a bunt. And the bunt is fouled back, and it's 0-1. Well, in this situation, it looked like he was trying to almost bunt for a hit, which kind of makes no sense because there's 2 runners on and no outs. You're the number 9 hitter, and it's only a 1-run game. Just get the ball down and sacrifice the guys in the scoring position. That's what he's going to try to do here, and he does well to get the ball down. And Beyer couldn't handle it at first, but finally finds the handle of the ball and records the out at first base. But the sacrifice worked to perfection there. And so now, as we just mentioned, both runners are in scoring position at second and third. It's Ricardo at third, who drew the walk, and Holm at second, who singled into left field. Here's the leadoff hitter, Waylon Price, 0 for 3. A ground out, a strikeout, and a flyout. Fastball swung and fouled out of play, 0-1 the count for Waylon Price. Of course, you're listening to this game on InlandValleyBaseball.com. If you haven't added us on Twitter, do that. We're at IV Baseball on Twitter. We actually have our tweets rolling on the right side of our website. This one misses outside for ball 1-1 the count. So even if you don't add us, you can see our tweets, and we have score updates, and we update when the stats are done, and all sorts of stuff to go with our website, pictures, videos, whatever we put up there. It's a great idea to add us on Twitter. Swung on and missed, strike 2. So it's 1-2 to number 1-2. for the Lancaster Rounders. The infield has come in this situation with 1 out, down 1-0. Want to prevent the run from coming home to score. Here's the pitch. Swung on. Fly ball to shallow center field, and BucsVsRoundersGm1 is charging in, makes the catch, and he is going to fire to the cutoff man, Teagle. So Teagle cuts it off, and the runner does not go. Good play there for the Buccaneers for the 2nd out of the inning. Here comes Brian Ebert, the 2nd baseman. 1 for 3, doubled and scored in the 6th inning. So he scored the only run of this game on the RBI double by John Ruiz, the cleanup hitter. Byer comes set in the stretch, fires. Fastball overthrown. Nice job by Miles Ryan to block that ball and to make sure that perhaps another run didn't come home to score. So it's a 1-0. Of course, in this situation with 2 outs, you want to make sure you throw some good pitches here to this hitter, especially when the heart of the lineup is coming up next. Breaking pitch low, and it's 2-0. But when you fall behind 2-0, you do have a base open, so you want to make good pitches, but you don't want to give them, a meaty fastball type of pitch, especially with a base open. 2-0 pitch. Off-speed pitch, nice breaking ball, called a strike at the knees, and it's 2-1. So Micah Byer in a little bit of a jam here with runners on 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs, and a 2-1 count to Brian Ebert. Fastball paints the outside corner, called strike 2, and it's 2-2. That was a big pitch from Byer, locating to perfection that fastball. So now he's got a 2-2 pitch to work with here. See if he comes back fastball, or maybe he goes back to the breaking pitch. Come back to the breaking pitch, and it's swung on and fouled, and it's 2-2, so we'll do it again. 6th pitch of the at-bat to come to number 6, Brian Ebert. Of course, we are so thrilled that you are joining us here on InlandValleyBaseball.com. Dave Silveri on the play-by-play. One of many games for the Buccaneers this week. And this is another ground ball foul, and so now there'll be pitch number 7 to come to Brian Ebert. I mentioned it, but it's worth noting again that if you consider this the beginning of the week here on a Tuesday, they have a game Tuesday, Thursday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. So a very, very busy 7-day stretch to come for the Buccaneers. Ground ball to the left side, and that will get through. And so in comes 2 runs, and it's now 3-0 Rounders. And that, I'm sure by the Rounders, will be scored as a 2-run single. It's kind of a hard decision to make because it was hit towards the hole on the left side, and it made a really weird bounce. It looked like it was going to bounce high for Riley, and it bounced low, so it went under his glove. And then Seminaris, who was trying to backhand it in the hole, it also went past him. I think it hit off his leg even. This one's high and in for a ball, and it's 1-0 to Eric Vegas. Vegas is 1 for 3 with the double. Well, the person who's the most interested about what the ruling is, I guess, would be Micah Byer, because if that's ruled an error for him, both runs are unearned. Here's the pitch. Swung on. Fly ball to Micah. Will Micah call for it? Yes, he will. Normally you see a first baseman or a third baseman come in and call off the pitcher. But Byer takes things into his own hands and makes the catch, and that'll do it for the top of the 7th. But the damage was done. The Rounders get 1 in the 6th and now 2 in the 7th, and they lead 3-0. It's time to stretch here at Cal Poly Pomona. And welcome back. To the bottom of 7 we go. 3-0 the score. Rounders on top of the Buccaneers. Here comes Kevin Riley, the number 3 hitter in the lineup. He is 0 for 2 with a flyout and a groundout. Swings the first pitch he sees and lifts it into shallow left field. Charging in and making the grab is Bearer, the left fielder, for the first out. So 1 pitch, 1 out here for the Buccaneers. It's the same pitcher, Mariah, who started the game. So, I mean, if you're the Buccaneers, really you should try to maybe see a few more pitches and try to wear him down and get to the next pitcher if you can. Late kick, and here's the pitch. Asperger takes strike 1, and it's 0-1 to him. He is grounded out in the 4th inning to the shortstop and struck out looking back in the 1st inning. Fastball low and away, 1-1 the count to Luke Asperger. I mentioned earlier he won a CIF championship. What a thrill that must have been. This one misses low and inside, and it's 2-1. Played in D6 though, so didn't get to play at Dodger Stadium. So that means he would have played at UC Riverside. Swung on and fouled straight back at me. That was one of the first times I think I actually flinched at a ball hit straight back at me. And it's now 2-2. Still though, very, very nice facility as UC Riverside. I'm sure it's still a thrill for a lot of high school players to play on a collegiate field. Bounce to the left side towards the shortstop, who is charging, catches it on the short hop and fires, but not in time. Asperger showing off the Jets down that first baseline, beats it out for an infield base hit. And here comes Michael Smith. Michael Smith replaced Rudy Casares back in the 6th inning in the field. And now will get his first at bat. Smith from a very, very talented athletic family, the youngest of 5. His 4 older siblings all playing collegiate athletics. Called strike on the outside corner on a slider, and it's 0-1 to Michael Smith. He still has another year left of high school. He'll be a senior at Memorial High in Tulsa next season. Of course, both of his sisters played soccer at Oklahoma State, and then both of his brothers, well, I'm sure you could guess what they played. They played baseball at the collegiate level. Another pickoff throw by Mariah, trying to maybe buy some time here. Nobody warming up down the third base line and in left field for the Rounders, so if you're thinking about that, seems like they will in fact be content with Mariah to at least close this inning out. The runner is off with a pitch. That is Asperger. It was a breaking pitch, so it's a good one to slide on. And slide head first he does. And he is safe with a stolen base. It's a good one to steal on, is what I was trying to say. And he slid anyways head first, and he is completely dirty now. From head to toe, brown, but that's what it's all about. Finding a way to get yourself in the scoring position. Tacking on at least 1 run here. Be a nice way to cut into the deficit. The Buccaneers, of course, have a lot of heart. This one's high and in for a ball to Michael Smith. And they've showed it time and time again. They fight until the bitter end. Smith now with a 3-1 pitch to come. Hitter's pitch. See if he kind of sits dead red on a fastball and looks to drive it somewhere. Time called for by Smith, as Mariah was taking a lot of time on the mound. And now Mariah actually steps off the mound and kind of works over the dirt in front of where he steps and strides. Charles Escobar is on deck. Breaking pitch called strike 2. So Charles Escobar will replace Richie Chavez in left field. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Bounce to the right side. 2-hopper over to the second baseman, Ebert, and he handles his business for the second out of the inning. Asperger did advance to third base on the play, but it was the second out. Still 3-0. Rounders on top of the Buccaneers with Charles Escobar set to bat and Anthony Rabito on deck. Here's the pitch. Swung on, towering fly ball. It's lifted in the infield, and it might get 1 foot onto the outfield, and that's exactly what it does as Ebert holds on for the final out of the 7th inning. And at the end of 7 innings of play, it remains 3-0. Rounders on top of the Buccaneers. And we head to the top of the 8th inning in a 3-0 ball game. The Rounders on top of the Buccaneers. Dave Sobey on the play-by-play. So glad you've joined us for yet another game for the Inland Valley Baseball Association. First pitch is in there for strike 1 from the new pitcher, Gerardo Ramirez. Ramirez 5'10", 210. Will be a senior at Diamond Bar High School next season. This one's lifted in the left field over towards Charles Escobar, and Escobar makes the catch for the first out here in the inning. Well, Gerardo Ramirez put up very, very good numbers as a junior at Diamond Bar High School, and not only on the bump but also at the plate. Kind of looking at him as the high school version of what Andrew Alvarez is at the college level. If you're not familiar with the Pirates, Andrew Alvarez is a very, very talented pitcher and hitter who's leading the team in batting average. Checked his swing, and yes, he did go, says the home plate umpire. And it's 0-1 to Daniel Knutson, who is 0 for 3 today. But if you look at his batting average, he was .364. And then you look at his pitching stats, and they are maybe even more impressive. 11 games started, 2.80 ERA, swung on and missed, and it's 0-2. 9-2 record, 5 complete games, 64 strikeouts, and 65 innings pitched. Here's the 0-2. Fastball misses low and away, and it's 1-2. It's almost unhittable for Coach Bowler at Diamond Bar High School. When you hear the strikeout to innings pitched ratio and the really good ERA, but this one is lifted, and this is a line drive to dead right field, and Anthony Rubito makes the catch and made it look pretty routine at that for the second out of the inning. Off the bat, it looked like it was struck very hard, but Rubito had to play it well out there in right field. Here's Victor Bearer. The left fielder is 1 for 3. Singled in the second inning, flew out in the 5th inning, and grounded out in the 6th inning. Called strike 1, 0-1 the count. Here's the 0-1, big breaking ball of the 12-6 variety. In there for strike 2. It was swung on and missed by Bearer. Swung over the top of it. So it's now 0-2. 0-2 blown by the hitter for strike 3. So a very, very good outing for Gerardo Ramirez here in the 8th inning. And obviously I assume he is the one that will close it out in the 9th. And as we head to the bottom of the 8th, there remains a 3-0 score as the Buccaneers will have a little huddle outside of their dugout for what they want to do here for the final 2 innings. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. And welcome back. It's the bottom of the 8th inning, 3-0 the score. Rounders on top of the Buccaneers. Anthony Rubito is at the plate. First pitch to him is in at the knees for called strike 1 and his 0-1. Rubito will be a freshman at Orange Coast College, 6'0", 195, right-handed hitter. Swings at this one and lifts it to deep left center field, and in the gap, and a nice diving catch made out there in center field by Holm. Wow, that was struck very, very hard out into left center field. That was as well as I think we've seen anybody on both sides of the ball hit it today. But Anthony Rubito is retired nonetheless, so that is the first out here in the inning. And now the Bucs are down to their final 5 outs. Breaking pitch low for ball 1. 1-0 the count here. Late kick in, here's the pitch, and this one misses outside, and it's 2-0 to Gerardo Ramirez. So Gerardo Ramirez, who came in to pitch in the last inning, now also getting an at-bat. hitting for Johnny Juarez. Called strike, and that is strike 2, 1-2 the count. So we talked about how good he was as a pitcher and a hitter in the last half inning. Here he is to hit. Swings and misses, and that is strike 2. And it's now 2-2 to Gerardo Ramirez. On deck is Jake Teagle. In the hole would be BucsVsRoundersGm1. Swings at this one and chops it on a one-hop to the third baseman Ricardo, who makes the throw to first for the second out here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Here comes Teagle, the number 9 hitter in the lineup. Of course, the Bucs batting 10 in a non-conference game. And the pitcher, Hito Murayu, he is still in, the one who started the game. Swung on and bounced to the left side once again at the third baseman on the one hop, and once again he makes the catch and fires across the diamond for the out. So down goes Teagle, and that is it for the 8th inning. Nothing doing for the Buccaneers. We'll head to the top of the 9th in a 3-0 ball game. Rounders on top. Welcome back. It's the top of the 9th inning. 3-0 the score. Rounders on top of the Buccaneers. Gerardo Ramirez still on the mound to work his second inning here. The reason Bayer only pitched 1 inning was actually because he told me before the game, I was just remembering, but he told me before the game that he kind of labored a lot on Saturday, and actually he wasn't even thinking of putting him in at first, but Bayer showed up today, so he must have asked him if he was ready to at least go 1 inning, and he was. Micah really just loves being part of the team. You can see he's a total team player and would love to pitch every day of the week if he could. Of course, Gerardo Ramirez came in the 8th inning and retired the side. A couple fly ball outs to the outfield and 1 strikeout. This is another fly ball to the outfield. BucsVsRoundersGm1 charging in, but it drops in front of him for a base hit. So that's the first base hit off of Ramirez. And the leadoff man is on base for the Rounders in the form of Benzo Ricardo. That was Ricardo's second base hit and 3rd time he reaches base. He also walked and scored back in the 7th inning. Breaking pitch in the dirt, ball 1 to the number 8 hitter Travis Holm, who singled and scored in the 7th inning. Also reached on an error in the 5th and lined out to the pitcher in his first at bat. Another breaking pitch and another ball low. It's 2-0. Ramirez working out of the stretch, towing the rubber, now firing. Fastball in there for strike 1, and it's 2-1. The Rounders bench is about as vocal as it's been the entire game, which is interesting considering it's the top of the 9th. They are leading 3-0, so it's not that surprising. This one's swung on and driven to the left side over towards the shortstop, I should say, Seminares, who makes a nice play, getting the force out at second base. Went deep in the hole to his right. Kind of made a almost Derek Jeter-esque like jumping throw to second base. Not quite as profound as what Jeter does, but he did make a leaping play there. First pitch called strike 1 to Nathan Williams. Williams is 0 for 2. Ground out, struck out, and sacrificed in the 7th inning. And that sacrifice was a huge bunt because it put both runners in scoring position and then allowed both of them to score on the 2-run single. Wow, nice throw down there by Miles Ryan. It was a breaking pitch that was in the dirt that he picked off the dirt and fired an absolute dart into second base. The second baseman, Michael Smith, couldn't handle it. So that'll be a stolen bag here for Holm. Fastball swung on it, fouled into the screen. behind home plate. The runner might have been safe, but it would have been very, very close had Michael Smith caught the ball. Ramirez checks the runner at second, fires home. It's a fastball that's once again fouled back at the screen. So the number 9 hitter, Nathan Williams, doing his best to protect the plate and stay alive and trying to perhaps give the Rounders some insurance runs here in the top of the 9th. High pitch, high fastball from Ramirez. Nowhere near the zone. I really don't understand what's up with the Rounders dugout now, as they're continuing to be kind of annoying and a nuisance. Nice diving catch made out in left field by Charles Escobar, charging on the dead sprint, and then sliding knee first, making the backhanded grab to retire Nathan Williams for the second out of the inning. And now we're back up to the top of the lineup, and Waylon Bryce, who's actually 0 for 4 today. Waylon Bryce has a ground out, a strikeout, and a couple of fly ball outs. In fact, Waylon Bryce has seen all 5 Inland Valley Buccaneer pitchers, and this is a slicing foul fly ball to the left field line that once again is caught by Charles Escobar for the final out of the inning. At the end of 8 1/2, it's 3-0 Rounders on top of the Bucs. You're listening on InlandValleyBaseball.com. The Buccaneers are down to their final 3 outs here in the bottom of the 9th inning, trailing 3-0 to the Rounders. First pitch misses low from the starting pitcher from this game, Ito Marayu, who remains on the mound for Lancaster. At the plate is Ambusi Lashuayo, who sacrificed in his only plate appearance. 2-0 the count. Kevin Buller had a little talk with him before he came up for this at bat. Maybe it was something along the lines of take until you get a first strike. He's taken the first 2 here. Here's the pitch. And this breaking pitch is in there for strike 1, 1-2 the count. Mbusi Lashuayo was the hero in the 9th inning of the one win they had against Team San Diego, hitting a triple of an RBI variety. And this one was cracked foul down the right field line, 2-2 the count. Well, Lashuayo is in the number 10 spot in the lineup. Then we have Miles Ryan and Anthony Seminaris due up here in this bottom of the 9th inning. Pitch misses outside, and it's 3-1. Well, we said that, or 3-2, I should say. It is 3-2, so it's a full count. Payoff pitch to come to Lashuayo. He swings and fouls it out of play down the third base line. So we'll do it again. Another 3-2 pitch to come. And the 7th pitch of the at-bat for Mbusi. Well, somebody was warming up in the pen in the last inning, but he's not there anymore for the Rounders. So it looks like Ryu is going to finish this one out, but Mbusi Lashuayo draws the walk, takes one low, and that is a good way to start the inning off here in the 9th inning with a leadoff walk. Of course, Lashuayo is one of those guys that you always look at as a leadoff type of hitter, a guy that you're either going to put, number 1 in the lineup or number 9. In this case, he's in the 10 spot, but that, of course, is because it's a non-league game, so you can hit 10. Here's Miles Ryan, who's 2 for 3, singled in his first 2 at-bats back in the 1st and 4th inning, and grounded out to first base in his 3rd at-bat. It would be a big time for a base hit right here, Miles. He takes inside, and that's ball 1, 1-0 count. And this is something I said at the beginning of the game, and really the Buccaneers didn't try doing this. Is really just trying to wear down this pitcher and see if you can extend him in at-bats and see a lot of pitches. Because he hasn't been the most consistent in terms of hitting the strike zone, and that right there is called a strike, but that did not look like one. It looked like one that was high and inside. But it's now 1-1. It doesn't really matter what I think. All that matters is the man in the blue behind home plate. So it's 1-1 here to Miles Ryan. I got the chance to talk with Ryan a little bit before the game, and he's always joking with me about sending me some of his info and some of his stats, because you can't really find any of it online. And he always says, you know, don't worry about it. Bounces this one to the left side over to the third baseman, who makes the backhanded grab, hits the force at second, throw to first in time. 5-4-3 double play, and now there are 2 outs here in the inning. And the Buccaneers are down to their final out. Anthony Seminaris comes up to the plate for his second at-bat. 0 for 1, flew out to the shortstop in his previous at-bat. Seminaris from Chino Hills, went to Iola High School, was a first-team All-League performer and a second-team All-CIF performer, and hit .457 as a senior. Low and outside, ball 1-1-0 the count. Wow. I don't know how you go and hit .457 in your second team All-CIF. I think we want a recount on that one. Here's the 1-0, low and away, 2-0. This was really tough because Latchwile had a really good at-bat here to lead off the bottom of the 9th inning and drew the walk, and you get your leadoff man on base and you feel good about yourself, and then all of a sudden it's taken away in the form of a double play ground out to the third baseman, Ricardo. (3-0) right down Broadway, and Seminaris was clearly taking the whole way and is now 3-1. Kevin Riley is due up. That would be the heart of the lineup, the beginning of the heart of the lineup, the number 3 hitter. This one misses low, and it's a 5-pitch walk drawn by Seminaris. So the Bucs have a man on base in the form of number 2. And up comes Kevin Riley, 0 for 3. Couple flyouts and 1 groundout. On deck, Luke Asperger. In the hole, Michael Smith. Those would be the next 3 to hit should the Buccaneers embark on an epic 2-out rally here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Fastball inside, strike 1 called. That's the first time that he came in with a strike on the first pitch here in the 9th inning. Ryu checks the runner, fires home. Swan, and that is cracked down the left field line. That is going to be fair, says the home plate umpire. Rounding third base and coming home to score is Seminaris, and Riley's going to have an RBI double. 3-1 the score. Riley crushing that one down the left field line. And once again, it's very hard to see down that line if it's fair or not. In fact, the shortstop was saying it was foul. Of course, he has a little bit biased being on the Rounders, but the home plate umpire making the good call and saying it was fair. And the Buccaneers hoping for that 2-out rally here. They have 1 in. They need 2 more. 2 more to tie it, as this is called a strike on the inside corner to Luke Asperger. Asperger is 1 for 3, singled in the 7th inning. Grounded out in the 4th and struck out back in the 1st inning. 0-1, Swan, and it is bounced foul down the third base line. 0-2 now. So the Bucs now down to their final strike, as they did show a little bit of life here in the 9th inning. I mean, it's really tough that the double play happened, because if the double play hadn't happened, that double would have scored 2 runs, and you would have the game-tying run in scoring position at second right now in the form of Kevin Riley. But obviously it did happen, so you can't play the what-if game. Here's the pitch. hit off the end of the bat. And Asperger staying alive. Let's see if the Buccaneers have a little magic in them. Down to their final strike, trailing 3-0 at the beginning of the inning, 3-1 now. Here's the pitch. Swung on, and it's a fly ball to shallow right field, and the catch is made by the second baseman Ebert for the final out of the game. And that will do it here at Scalinos Field as the Rounders defeat the Inland Valley Buccaneers 3-1. Game that I think Buccaneers would have preferred to win. Well, obviously you would always prefer to win over a loss, but the Buccaneers thought that this was a game that they really had circled as a potential win, and they are not going to be able to do it as the Buccaneers high five on the pitcher's mound, as the Rounders high five on the pitcher's mound of the Buccaneers, and the Bucs kind of just staring at them as they do that. And so the Bucs will now fall to 3-13 overall after this tough loss here today. Well, they're back at it again on Thursday, which will be our next broadcast against the Pirates. I know that the Buccaneers can play better than the way they played today. I just don't feel like their level of intensity, and I just don't feel like they came to play today, and it's really upsetting to see and disappointing, because I know that's not the level they play against the Pirates when they try to, take the field with the Pirates, and I'm sure that wasn't the level they played against the Power when they only lost 4-3 to the Power. But just a kind of disappointing game for the Buccaneers, who fall 3-1 to the Rounders. Thanks for listening, though. We really appreciate it. I'm, of course, Dave Soberi, and we'll see you at 5 o'clock on Thursday.